Hello, I'm excited to have you here with us today. Today we're going to be talking conditional logic and how to do that. And certainly if you've got questions, I'm going to kind of show you some simpler examples and we'll get into a little bit more harder examples. But if you've got something that you want to get more into, welcome to. Can we just make sure that if someone could just put in the chat and just make sure that they can, one, see my screen and two, hear me. Because if no one says that they can hear me, then I'm in trouble. Oh, we can see and hear. Oh, awesome. So, all right, perfect. So let's get started. And as with normal format to this, I'm going to go through and do some training on the if, then, if else statements, and then at the end, if you do have questions, we can go through and answer those. So let's get started. I'm going to start with this letter first. It's just completely simple letter, but let's just kind of go through a way to do some if statements. So let's just say in this case, let's just say I have children and I need to, I want this to come in. So two things to kind of as a baseline is, one, I always like having my paragraph markers on when I'm automating because it tells me where I'm at. And the second thing is if I have a if statement that I need to surround a paragraph or multiple paragraphs, that if statement has to be on it without any periods after. It has to be basically on its own line. Now I can do if statements within a paragraph all day long, and that doesn't have to, and you can do that. But if you're spanning an entire paragraph or multiple paragraphs, it needs to be around it. So let's just say I'm just going to do a simple true false one right now. I'm going to click on my menu and insert with the if statement. So in this case, if children is true, so basically, do I have children is true, then I'm going to put that in. If I want to include else, I can just check the else as well and pull that in. And I'm going to do that. And then in this case, because I just didn't, I can put I have children. And I can put I don't have children. So I can go through and do conditions like that. So if I have it, if I don't, then it's going to go to the else and get a little bit more complicated there. Now let's go ahead and let's take it up to the next level, and I'm going to create a new variable. So I'm going to kind of run here. So we're going to create a new selection variable because this would be a common thing to do. Selection, I'm just going to call it test. And so I'm going to say test 1, test 2, test 3. Okay, so now I want to get a look, because I have a selection variable, maybe I have different ways to do it. So let's say I want, in this case, test 1 language, test 2 language, test 3 language. Now, I really have two approaches I can take when I'm doing this. One, I'll show you the first approach that we could take is test 1 language. I could do an if statement. and I'm not going to do an else statement. I can say test one, so I could insert that. Let me redo that. I could go through and put if test language one. I could do I could basically do the same thing. Put a little bit more than I wanted there, so I'm just going to delete those. Test language 2 and test language 3. Now, let's just say that, and this works in this scenario. I'm going to go ahead, I'll do the last one just to have it. 3. Okay. Let's just say I want test 1 equals, that's fine. But let's just say I want this to be an else statement. So the way I would form this in our add-in, we don't have it, we don't show it today as an option, but I could do else if test 2. And so I could put else if there, and that's great. And so, and then that would come in that information else if test 3. But let's just say they don't select any of these. And I want, in this case, I wanted to have some language that basically said no language. So then I could do, I can just type this. There's no reason why I can't just type no test language. And so if I go through these conditions and none of them equal, this is a good reason to use an else at the end as just kind of a catch-all. And they'll pull that information in. Okay, so that becomes a possibility. And this is, you'll see the equals if it equals test 1, test 2, on down the list. Next thing, so and then I can click save and see if I get any errors. Certainly you may run across this. So if I had I believe if I have that space there, it should give me an error. Oh, it's letting it go slide. Okay. Sometimes you will get error, especially if I put a whole bunch of information here besides just one. Okay. So next thing is, let's say you get a little bit more complicated and I have a new test variable. I'm going to create another test variable. I'm going to do it as a list, so as a selection. So I'm going to say test. Test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4. So now I can go through and do, I'm going to do something fairly similar here. So test 1, test 3, test 4. Okay. Just going to scroll down. I want to do an if statement based on this. What you're going to see now, because I can select, in this case, I can select any or all of these. You'll now see that I use the word contains or does not contain, because I may check test 1 and test 3, but I want the language to come in if I do either of those. So it now says contains here instead. So I'm just going to insert it and then I'm going to move it. But okay, just follow this through. X. So you'll see contains, it's a little bit different. Whereas if it was a single item, it has a two equals. In this case, we have a list of items, and contains means that basically it has test one in it. And that's part of the selection. So I can go through and do basically the same thing here. Now let's just say I want, so that kind of gives an idea of how to use if else, if with a contains, but let's now take it to kind of the next level, and I want to have something a little bit more. I want to go a little bit fancier here. So in this case, I now want to, what happens if I want this to have, if it contains test one or test three? So adding a little bit more complexity. Let's just say this contains test one or three. So now I need to do something a little bit different. So there's two approaches I can take to it. I can use the word add-in. I'm just going to do an if statement. Contains test three. And now it gave me another one, but really I want or there. So the way I'm going to handle this is I'm going to actually erase. And then our or symbol is two pipes. So if test contains and if test contains, and so now we've got an or there. So in this case, this contains test one or three. Then we'd have that come in, and I'm just gonna make sure I got my it doesn't like that, and I don't need the tip. It doesn't like the if. I knew it doesn't. Didn't seem right. If multiple. And I don't do these as often, so you're getting, I'm getting me. I can put parentheses around. That's exactly right. Yep, okay. So I did need this is the order of operation, and in our help thing, you get things on order of operations. So that way I'm grouping this whole piece together and this whole piece, and I'm doing an or around it, okay? So let's just say now in this case, the next instance is this contains test 2 and 4. So this is a little bit different. I'm going to cheat here a little bit. And in this case, I'm going to do test. I'm going to type in test 2, test 4. But instead of doing an or, I put 2 ands here instead. So that means if I select both of these, then this language will come in. And I'm just gonna click save. And that uploaded. Let's just go to Knackly training. I'm in the letter. See, now I've got multiple select here. I've got test 1, 2, or 3. I'm just going to do test. I'm going to do those. Then that language will come in. Complete. This contains test 1 or 3. So in all reality, if I come back here, I selected both of them, but if I did just test 1, and I run it again, it will still say this contains test 1 or 3. Now, if I just go back, I have to select both of these in order for the other. So actually, if I did these 3 in this instance, contains test 1 or test 2 and 4. So it goes through and pulls in the language as I need it. So I'm interested if there's questions on the if statements and what I've discussed. I'd be curious to know if people have questions or if it makes sense. All right, I'm going to assume that it makes sense since there weren't any questions. So that's what I was going to show you today, is how to go through and handle these conditional statements and what can be done there. I am going to stay on for a few minutes. If you've got additional questions that I can answer, you certainly can ask them now. Otherwise, we're done with this Q&A, and appreciate you joining us today.